Welcome to the deep dive. We are here to process the deluge of information, distill it down, and hand you the essential, well-contextualized knowledge you need to be perfectly informed.
And today, we are taking a long, hard look at a comment that wasn't just a headline, it was a definitive historical statement from one of England's greatest ever players.
We're talking about Harry Kane, of course, and his declaration that his move to Bayern Munich was one of the best decisions of my life.
Exactly. So this isn't just about a transfer anymore. It's a critical moment for reevaluating his entire career. And our sources today are, well, they're focused on the immediate, raw, and often painfully honest reaction from the fan base he left behind.
And when we say raw reaction, we really mean it. We're deep diving into the unfiltered commentary from the Farquharz community. That's the main Tottenham Hotspur subreddit. So the mission today is a full analysis of legacy, of institutional failure, the validation of personal ambition, and just the complex emotions tied up in watching your former hero win everywhere but at home.
And the central source for all this, the quote that kicked it all off, was reported by Fabrizio Romano. It's devastatingly clear. Kane said the move was a great step in my career and that it helped him improve as a player.
Right.
But here's the kicker for the future. He is quite open to staying longer, despite having just over 18 months left on my contract.
That phrase, one of the best decisions of my life, it's a complete retrospective justification for leaving, isn't it?
It's the final word on it. It closes the book on the debate.
And this is where it gets so fascinating for our deep dive. The discussion we are analyzing comes almost entirely from the Spurs community itself.
Yeah.
They are, for all intents and purposes, hosting an internal inquest into why their greatest ever player is happier, more fulfilled, and winning trophies somewhere else.
It really highlights that enduring, painful, and almost codependent connection between a star and the club he defined for a decade.
It forces them to face a reality they probably didn't want to admit.
Which is
that his happiness and his success are directly tied to his separation from them. This contrast between the player's euphoria and the club's struggles is, well, the perfect starting point.
Okay, so let's jump in. Section 1. The sheer validation Kane is experiencing in Munich versus what the fans back home have, pretty resignedly, labeled the dumpster fire.
From Kane's perspective, it seems like total satisfaction. The sources say he's loving it and, really importantly, not thinking about a return.
And beyond just the winning, there's a really telling emotional observation in there. He says he feels more respected since leaving Tottenham for Bayern Munich.
No, that idea of respect is just so loaded, isn't it?
It's huge.
At Spurs, he was the undisputed king. He was the beacon of hope, the man carrying the weight of, 50 years of expectation?
Yeah.
So to feel more respected at a club like Bayern, which is just full of legends and winners, it suggests that the atmosphere at Tottenham became, oppressive. It felt more like a burden of dependency than actual admiration.
I think you're spot on. It speaks to a psychological shift. At Spurs, every single failure was placed on his shoulders. He was the talisman who had to conjure magic in every single big moment.
Right, the pressure must have been immense.
At Bayern, he's a crucial component, maybe the most important one. But he's surrounded by peers who share that load. His brilliance is sort of normalized. He gets to focus purely on scoring goals, his specialty, without managing the entire club's morale.
And we really shouldn't forget the practical element here, which the sources highlight, but which often gets sidelined in football analysis.
The family.
The family. He has a young family that is settled there. Moving your life, especially with children, is so disruptive. If the player's happy, the family's happy, success is flowing, that becomes a massive, almost insurmountable reason not to go back.
Exactly. Why would you sacrifice domestic bliss and professional success for a sentimental return to a situation that, frankly, offered neither?
And this brings us right to that painfully honest self-assessment from the Tottenham community. Their admissions are steeped in this kind of dark, self-deprecating humor.
It's proper gallows humor, isn't it? Born of pure resignation.
Completely. We see quotes that just capture it perfectly, like, absolutely shocked he wouldn't want to come back to this dumpster fire.
And the even more pointed one, which was shocking that he'd rather stay at Bayern, banging in goals, playing great football, and being a favorite for the CL, than come back to this shit show.
The acceptance is just total. One fan simply wrote that Kane was never coming back because, and this is a direct quote, he's not an idiot.
Well, there you have it.
Right.
The logical reality just trumps any emotional desire for his return. They get it. They understand he traded in complexity and frustration for efficiency and victory.
And that efficiency, that victory, leads us straight to the classic critique of the move, the Farmers League argument.
Ah, yes, the old chestnut.
The classic counter-argument from English football fans that success in the Bundesliga is, inherently cheapened because of Bayern's massive financial dominance.
It's an unavoidable point, and it pops up immediately in the source commentary. One person says he's got it made playing in what is now the biggest farmers league in Europe.
It's an attempt to minimize the achievement, right?
Of course. And the counterfactual is even suggested. Swap us with Bayern, and we would probably compete for a title in this year's Bundesliga.
Which is a stretch. But if we look closer at the nuance within those fan discussions, the counter-argument actually refutes this easy dismissal.
Right, because despite the lack of a strong title race every year, some Spurs fans were admitting that watching Bayern this season has been amazing TPF. They're scary good.
Exactly. So the quality of Kane's football and the performance of the team is clearly elite, regardless of the week-in, week-out competition.
I think the debate here isn't really about the league cable's competitiveness. It's about the organizational difference. Bayern Munich is a machine. It's ruthless efficiency. They buy players to integrate into a winning structure that already exists.
And this leads to a really interesting side detail in the sources, the praise for Vincent Kompany.
I found this fascinating.
The fact that Bayern, a giant of European football, hired a manager who had just overseen relegation with Burnley is seen as this sign of incredible strategic confidence and vision.
And it's a subtle dig at Levy's more reactive managerial appointments at Spurs, isn't it?
Completely. Bayern chose Kompany not based on his immediate league finish, but on his clear, uncompromising tactical style and long-term vision. The source material notes the decision is pretty crazy on the surface.
But the fans can see the logic. One brilliant comment suggested that Kompany basically used his relegation season at Burnley to put his style of play in the shop window and said to potential suitors, imagine if the players were any good, how well this will go.
He was selling a philosophy, not just a result.
And that contrasts so starkly with what the sources allege about Tottenham, where managerial appointments were often seen as a short-term bandage. A big name like Mourinho or Conte brought in to paper over systemic cracks.
Right, rather than a strategic appointment aligned with a club-wide vision. Kompany's success validates Bayern's structural integrity. And Kane is thriving in an environment where the choices are, well, arguably, more strategically sound.
It's that stable, high-performance environment where standards are relentlessly high. There's a mention of Kompany going Fing-Mendel at the Burnley squad in an old clip that has allowed Kane to operate at his absolute peak.
He got the respect, the stability, and the high-performance culture he was craving.
Which naturally brings us to Section 2. The tangible reward for all this.
The silverware.
The immediate, verifiable success that completely validates the move. Specifically, the hunt for trophies and, of course, the ultimate individual prize, the Ballon d'Or.
The sources confirm the obvious. He's scoring for fun, winning titles, and most crucially for his legacy, he's playing for a team that can actually contest the UCL every season. He is, by any measure, fulfilling the primary purpose of his transfer.
But, once you achieve that team success, the conversation immediately elevates to the individual pinnacle. And the fans are now explicitly debating the precise set of conditions required for Kane to finally capture the Ballon d'Or.
An award that symbolizes that ultimate global recognition.
And this is where we have to get into the complex calculus of winning this thing. Winning the Bundesliga, while essential, is treated as the baseline, a prerequisite.
It shouldn't be a problem, as one source says, but it won't be enough for the voters, not on its own.
No. The consensus, which is really clearly articulated in the fan commentary, is that the ultimate prize requires one of two massive achievements, or ideally both.
Okay, what are they?
First, winning the Champions League with Bayern. Second, England performing spectacularly, ideally winning a major tournament like the World Cup. A good performance but not winning in either is seen as just not enough.
This whole analysis just highlights the deep cynicism the sources hold about the award itself, doesn't it?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
There's a very strong undercurrent suggesting that the Ballon d'Or is driven by narrative and popularity, not pure, cold, hard statistics.
And you see that explicit view that if England wins the World Cup, the award is just going to whoever in the team had the best tournament. It's openly viewed as a popularity contest at this point.
It's almost a recognition that Kane's methodical, consistent brilliance needs a major international or European trophy narrative boost to beat, I don't know, flashier competitors.
And the level of emotional investment in seeing him win this, even from rival fans, is so high. We have that incredible quote detailing the planned response if he falls short.
This was amazing.
If he wins the Bundesliga, reaches the CL final, and possibly wins the World Cup, but still misses the Ballon d'Or, fans should protest against this scam Ballon d'Or popularity contest.
That's just a fascinating insight, isn't it? It means that a significant portion of the football public believes Kane is, statistically, the most deserving player right now. And if the award criteria prioritize narrative over the hard numbers, they are ready to call it out as fraudulent.
They want the metrics to win.
Exactly.
And the metrics, honestly, are completely overwhelming. This is where we just have to pause and appreciate the sheer statistical dominance he has achieved in Germany.
We have to contextualize these numbers because they are the factual bedrock of his decision.
So let's talk scale. The rate of his goal scoring is historic. He scored an astonishing 65 goals in 64 Bundesliga games.
Just get your head around that. He had to adapt to a new country, a new language, new teammates, a new style of play, and he just walks in and does that. It's world-class consistency redefined.
And to put that into perspective, the sources note that this is at least 6 more than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues since he joined Bayern. He isn't just scoring. He is outperforming every other elite striker on the continent.
And for me, the hat-trick pace is arguably the most striking evidence of his immediate transformative impact.
Go on.
The fact that he has scored as many hat-tricks in the Bundesliga as he did in the Premier League, 8 each, in a tiny fraction of the time, is just incredible.
It just confirms that the system at Bayern is unlocking an even higher level of productivity than he showed at Spurs.
He didn't just join Bayern. He immediately reset the efficiency curve. He's already broken the record for being the fastest player to reach 100 goals for a club in Europe's top 5 leagues.
So this isn't just succeeding, this is rewriting the expectations for a new signing. It completely validates the narrative of ambition justified, regardless of the relative strength of the league.
And that phenomenal success puts the focus squarely back on the institutional shortcomings of the team he left behind. If he can achieve this instantly at Bayern, why couldn't Spurs provide the environment for him to win major trophies during his prime?
Which leads us perfectly into the most contentious part of our deep dive. Section 3, the blame game.
This is where it gets really polarized. The source material features 2 powerful, often contradictory arguments about who was responsible for that decade of near misses at Tottenham.
So we need to weigh both sides equally. Let's call them Argument A, institutional failure, and Argument B, Kane's ego and performance.
Okay, let's start with Argument A. The systemic failure aims squarely at the management, so Daniel Levy and the EAC board.
And the foundational critique here is that Levy's biggest failings was not investing in the team to match Kane's growth and letting the squad, especially after that Pochettino peak, turn to shut.
They point to a very specific financial anchor that dragged the club down, the stadium capital expenditure. This is absolutely crucial for understanding the institutional choice made during Kane's prime years.
The sources argue that the period from 2016 to 2019 saw Spurs pour over 500 meters of internal cash flows into stadium capex.
And what does $500 million in internal cash flows actually mean for squad depth?
It means that money wasn't available for transfers. Simple as that. The sources argue this choice limited squad investment and stalled the team during his prime.
That decision was a strategic calculation, wasn't it? Sacrificing short-term silverware for long-term infrastructure and revenue?
And the cost of that calculation was Harry Kane's ambition.
And that strategic choice had direct knock-on effects for the managerial situation. The sources allege that instead of real investment, Levy pursued the cheapest option for success.
So hiring big-name managers like Mourinho and Conte wasn't seen as building a lasting structure, but as a quick fix, a substitute for the pesky reinvestment needed to actually compete.
And the disastrous hiring of Nuno Espirito Santo is cited as the ultimate example of this institutional incoherence. He was described as bad for the team, not just Kane.
It just showed a club without a clear, defined footballing identity at a critical time when Kane desperately needed stability and direction.
Then there's the lingering pain of the 2021 Man City saga. One fan lamented that things would have been so much different if he left for City.
You can feel the collective bitterness in the sources, can't you? And it's aimed at Manchester City, not just Levy, for unsettling him but ever bid more than 75 meters whilst buying Grealish in the same summer for £100.
That bitterness suggests a belief that if City had just been serious, Kane would be winning Premier League trophies now and the club could have moved on earlier.
It's a circular blame game. Levy's blamed for not selling, City's blamed for not buying properly, but the fan sentiment is clear. Institutional inertia stalled his trophy-winning window.
However, we have to transition now to argument B.
Yes, the difficult counter-arguments levied against Kane himself. These sources suggest that the blame isn't purely institutional, that Kane's own ambition and ego contributed to the failure.
And the first, most immediate critique is his performance when the lights were brightest. His record in semifinals and finals is described explicitly as dog shit. Sources state he failed to deliver in finals and became a ghost in those crucial cup fixtures.
The implication being that a true leader, a truly world-class player, should elevate their performance in those moments. And Kane often didn't do that for Spurs.
But the most specific and damaging anecdote centers on the 2019 Champions League final. This is where the debate gets really personal.
The accusation is that he forced himself back into the starting XI for the CL final ahead of a red-hot Lucas Moura when he wasn't ready and stunk up the joint.
That is just a devastating point because the sources highlight the context. The entire knockout run that defined that era was done entirely without him while he was injured.
So the argument goes that by insisting on starting when he wasn't fit, Kane, whether he meant to or not, prioritized his own inclusion over the team's best chance to win.
Proving that his personal agenda may have, in that one crucial moment, actually hindered the collective.
And that leads directly to the assessment of his leadership and ego, which were highly scrutinized. The comments state, he held us back as much as we held him back.
And they cite poor leadership skills, referencing those infamous motivational speeches caught on camera during the All or Nothing documentary.
Right, and for you listening, that documentary was meant to show the inner workings of the club, but those particular scenes where Kane was trying to rally the troops, they were widely criticized by fans for lacking fire or, genuine connection.
For some supporters, it just solidified a narrative that he wasn't the fierce, inspiring leader you need in a crisis, despite all his goals.
The sources then developed this theory that his status as the unchallenged, untouchable superstar within the club was actually detrimental.
The idea being that he works much better at a non-English club full of world superstars where he can't throw his weight around so much and just focuses on his football.
It implies that at Spurs, his massive personal influence may have led to an imbalance. And surprisingly, Levy is somewhat absolved by these critics.
Right. The argument is that Levy bent over backwards to try to appease Kane, suggesting that administrative decisions became reactive, constantly trying to satisfy the star's needs rather than pursuing a clear, independent vision.
And the ultimate example cited for this is the Nuno sacking, which connects back to argument A.
A source explicitly states Levy fired Nuno barely 10 games into his tenure in no small part because Kane had completely downed tools and was threatening to leave unless Spurs got another big-name manager in after Mourinho.
Now, if that's true, that Kane's dissatisfaction could force a managerial change after just 10 games, it paints a picture of a star player holding a huge amount of power over the institution.
And it suggests the failure wasn't just institutional neglect, but the toxic dynamic created by trying to build everything around one player's immense unfulfilled ambition.
So if we try and synthesize these two massive conflicting arguments, was he the victim of a penny-pinching board whose stadium debt stalled the squad?
Or was he a star whose desire for success led him to wield too much influence, creating a reactive, disorganized environment that ultimately failed him?
What's fascinating is the common denominator. The system failed. Both sides agree on that.
Yeah, the only disagreement is on the mechanism of that failure. Was it Levy's lack of cash or Kane's control over choices? It ended the same way. No silverware and a painful departure.
So let's transition now into our final section. Section 4, legacy, comparisons, and the critical discussion about his future.
Because despite the intense blame game, the debate about his sheer quality is pretty much settled, isn't it?
Oh, completely. He is universally accepted as an exceptional and prolific goal scorer, one of the greats for sure. And on the national stage, he's already ranked at the very top.
Wayne Rooney's quote is key here, confirming Kane's status as England's greatest striker ever.
But Rooney adds a fascinating layer of nuance. He admitted he wasn't sure if Kane was a better overall player than himself, noting that he, Rooney, was nastier than him.
That difference speaks volumes about their playing styles, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kane is the surgical, professional, methodical goal machine.
And Rooney represents that gritty, fighting, competitive spirit, perhaps from an earlier era of English football. Rooney acknowledged Kane's superior output while reserving judgment on the less tangible attributes like fight and aggression.
But the most critical evaluation of Kane's move and its impact on his legacy comes from Michael Owen.
Right.
Owen's opinion is forceful, and it cuts directly against the congratulatory narrative. He believed Kane was nuts for joining Bayern Munich.
And Owen's reasoning centers entirely on the concept of legacy sacrifice. He views winning the Bundesliga as basically comparable to winning the Scottish League, a predictable outcome.
And he argues that the true, singular, great achievement Kane should have pursued was staying at Spurs and securing the Premier League all-time leading goal-scorer record.
We have to elaborate on why that record holds such monumental weight, don't we?
We do. Becoming the EPL's all-time scorer is an unassailable domestic crown. It's a testament to dominance in arguably the world's toughest league.
So by moving to Bayern, Kane sacrificed a guaranteed, singular historical achievement, one that marks a player forever in English football for collective titles that are arguably easier to attain.
And Kane's current scoring rate only sharpens this critique. I mean, if he had maintained this phenomenal pace in the Premier League, he would have broken Alan Shearer's record years ago.
Now he's creating this new, separate legacy in Germany. It's a bifurcated legacy. A hero in England, but one who left the job unfinished domestically, and a legend in the making in Munich.
Which just makes the stakes for the Champions League even higher. If he breaks all the German records but still doesn't win the Champions League, Owen's argument gains immense gravity.
It's a study in ambition versus loyalty and personal record versus team trophies. It shows the incredible pressure on modern elite footballers to tick every single box before their career's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's quickly review the sources on his contract situation because despite his happiness, the clock is ticking.
King confirmed he has just over 18 months left and expects talks soon about an extension.
But the sources also provided a critical, often overlooked detail, a release clause included for 2026.
And while he's open to staying longer, that clause gives Bayern a finite period, 3 seasons, to maximize his performance before he potentially reevaluates.
And it gives any potential suitors a concrete date to start planning.
And those suitors are already circling. The sources indicate that Barcelona is reported to be making him a first-choice target to replace Robert Lewandowski.
So even in the midst of his career best form in Germany, he is still recognized globally as the best striker in the world. His future is still a major talking point.
And finally, as we conclude, we have to recognize the full spectrum of emotion within the Spurs fan base, from deep gratitude to, well, outright hostility.
On one side, you have what we can call the gratitude camp. These are the fans who accept the reality and are grateful we got to watch him for almost a decade.
They offer good wishes, happy for the guy. They appreciate the history they shared, regardless of the trophies.
But on the other side, there is this tiny, emotionally raw minority of detractors. They view the move not as a professional necessity, but as personal betrayal. You see comments like, "I wish nothing but the worst for Kane because he betrayed Spurs."
And that reaction just highlights that for some fans, loyalty to the club structure is paramount, even over the player's personal success.
That sense of betrayal is almost illogical, given the club's institutional failures we've talked about. But it exists because football is inherently emotional.
For them, loyalty trumps ambition. Every single time. They can't fathom why he would escape the dumpster fire to finally win something.
And this dichotomy just summarizes everything we've analyzed today. This deep dive has illustrated the collision of two powerful narratives.
The narrative of personal ambition, justified, validated by Kane's instant success, versus the narrative of institutional failure at Tottenham, which simply couldn't provide the infrastructure necessary for a player of his caliber.
So, what's the crucial takeaway for you listening to this? It's that even the most decisive and successful career move in modern football, one fully validated by staggering statistics, is never judged solely on performance.
No, it's judged on the club's financial politics, the history of loyalty, and the complex emotional narrative of the career path that was sacrificed to make it happen.
It's the ultimate study in opportunity cost, as Michael Owen pointed out. And the question remains, what does this move ultimately cost Harry Kane's personal legacy?
And that really is the provocative closing question.
Given his phenomenal, record-breaking scoring rate at Bayern rate that will likely see him hit 100 goals faster than anyone in Europe's top 5 leagues, if he achieves all that personal glory but ultimately fails to win the Champions League, will his move be viewed retrospectively as a tragic sacrifice of a guaranteed monumental personal legacy, the EPL record, for a conditional team ambition that didn't quite materialize at the ultimate level?
And the answer is still being written in real time. It's an unprecedented scenario, and it will be fascinating to see which record, the domestic legend or the European champion, he prioritizes next, especially with that 2026 release clause looming.
Absolutely fascinating. That's all the time we have for this deep dive into the Bayern revelation and the enduring Spurs legacy. We'll see you next time.